I think that'll work. That'll work. Okay. All right. So I'm going to switch to the speaker view. And Phil, why don't I start with you? Let's just before we talk about like Sarajevo, let's talk about the build up to it, right? Because you guys are both on the U.S. national team as teenagers. What was that like for you guys? You know, competing at that level while you're still so young.
Well, you know, obviously Sarajevo, we were in our 20s by then, but you know, we were there at 26 when we were there. But you know, we started our careers when we were young. Made the U.S. ski team, excuse me, when we were in our teens, mid-teens, and went to 2 Olympics prior to Sarajevo. So we had some Olympic experience going there, but we hadn't had a great season leading up to Sarajevo. We'd had some, you know, Steve actually had won a race, but we were disqualified because we were wearing one another's numbers. We had a mix up there with our bibs, and but we hadn't had a great season. So there was a lot of, I guess, a little bit of attention going into that. We had a big press conference, I remember, before the races there, and somebody asked us about our chances of winning medals in giant slalom, and I said slim to none, and Slim had left town. It just wasn't going to happen. I hadn't been in the first 10 all year, and I was supposed to win a gold medal or something. It was not going to happen. But the slalom, I think we were both skiing well. We just hadn't put 2 runs together in that year, and so we had good feelings about the slalom there, and it all worked out.
And Steve, what about you then? Just kind of like I said, growing up, you know, at White Pass, and I guess when did you know that you guys were really going to be able to make it and compete at that international level?
Basically, by the time we were probably juniors or so in high school, I mean, Phil and I, our first love basically is football. You know, instead of going to Europe, both my junior and senior year with the ski team to train with them, I stayed home so I could play football. Your football coaches, what are you doing? Your ski coaches, what are you doing? But I could only play high school football for 4 years, and so you know that was really important to me. I'd rather do that than ski at that time of the year, so I did that. But when I graduated, I knew, you know, the chance of me playing football beyond that were pretty slim. The Olympics were a year away, and I knew that I had a, you know, it was pretty much guaranteed to spot Phil the same way to go there. I mean, we were 2 of the best in the U.S. at that point in slalom and GS, and so I knew then that was going to happen. But I mean, I think the dream started probably, you know, 3 or 4 years before that, as far as really feeling like you could make it there, because you were skiing at the national level and being competitive when you were 14 years old. And so you're looking at saying, yeah, I mean, 3 or 4 years from now, the Olympics are coming up. I think I can get there. So.
Sure. And Steve, I imagine, I mean, you guys were in skis probably from about the time you could walk, right? Because your dad worked at White Pass, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, his dad was an orchardist, and then Dad became an orchardist. He bought orchards in Ellensburg. We were born in Yakima, and then before we were a year old, we moved to Ellensburg when he bought his orchards. We were there for 5 years while Dad was working the orchards. In the winter, when the orchards didn't need as much of his attention, he would go to White Pass on weekends and work there. And he was offered the job as a ski area manager, basically when we were 5. And so we moved back to Yakima Valley. He sold the orchards to his younger brother, and Dad started working the area when we were 6. And so we started getting to go up on weekends. And then we moved to the area when we were 9 years old. The company built a house right there at the base of the area, and the rest is history.
Phil, let's go back to you now, and let's talk about Sarajevo specifically, because I know from reading about it that Steve is the one that had the amazing first run, and you were kind of thinking, hey, look, like gold's probably not in the cards for me here, but maybe I can get second to brother. So what happened for you on that second run that put you over the top?
Well, the thing there was, you know, I started number 11 the first run. Steve started number 3. When he got at the bottom, he radioed to me comments on the course. We always inspected courses together, and he gave me comments on the course. And then, you know, all the guys leading up to me coming down, between Steve and myself, 4, 5, 6, 7, they all went out. After about 5 had gone out, he radioed again. He said, hey, it's not that bad. Don't worry about it. And then the next guy goes out, next guy. I mean, everybody went out. So when I got to the bottom the first run, I was in 3rd place, but I was dead last. I mean, nobody had finished other than number 1 and Steve. And so I was in third at the point, and at that point, I was 7/10 out. I was like, there's no chance of winning a gold at this point. Steve's skiing way too well, unless he makes mistakes or something. But I knew we were gold and silver medalists as long as we didn't make mistakes the second run. The kid that was in second place was from Sweden. It was the first time he'd ever been in that position in his career. And you knew that his odds of choking were pretty good. And so I just like pretty much resigned myself to a silver medal. I obviously liked the way the second run was set. The course kind of fit in my I guess there's a box. There's a rhythm, a distance between gates. There's certain courses just fit your wheelhouse. And as I inspected that run, I really liked the course. It was in my wheelhouse. The first run really wasn't. I didn't like the first run at all, the way the course was set, but that just goes, that's part of the sport. And, I was lucky because I ran, before Steve that run. And when I got to the bottom, I was leading, and I told him what to do to screw up and mess up in order for me to win the gold medal. And, he, knowing that he was my younger brother, said I had to respect my elders. And he did exactly what I told him to do, break that gate off about the fourth gate or so. That'll kind of break your concentration, do all these things to make mistakes to let me win. But no, it was just unfortunate. He had two ways of approaching the second run because he had such a big lead. And they were, one, take it easy, let people beat me by a half a second and I'll win a gold medal, or go out and win the run. And he felt he needed to win the run to be an Olympic champion, to prove that he was the best. And I would have approached it just the way he did. And I was fortunate. I was in the same situation 4 years earlier in Lake Placid. I won the first run by 0.4 of a second, basically, and then made 2 or 3 mistakes the second run to finish second. And I learned then that, not do necessarily the best win, but the guy that makes the least number of mistakes wins. And everybody that goes to the Olympic Games, really, that competes there, has a gold medal around their neck the day of their event. Unfortunately, only one person gets to walk away with that gold medal. And I was fortunate enough to win that day. And unfortunately, it was at the expense of my brother.
Well, let's go back to it. I know it's probably still kind of a sore subject, and I don't know if he ribs you about it too much, but like he said, he would have approached it the exact same way that you did, right? So
Oh yeah.
when you replay it in your mind, you would have done it the same way still?
Oh yeah. I mean, anytime I would, even just to go out in training, if I didn't go 100% in training, I didn't ski as well as I did when I went 100%. I mean, in training, you go out and you find your limits. You push yourself as hard as you can. On a race day, maybe you back off to 97% or something, just a little bit, so you don't hit those limits and make the mistakes. And I was on that limit just a little too close. The big mistake in the middle where I got what we call locked. I went into a flush, and the inside foot, I don't know if I was too close to the gate, it just bumped it a little bit, but it knocked my other foot kind of out. And I was leaning the wrong way, and I couldn't turn the other way. And I basically had to just really drop my center of mass. I basically try to almost hop upward or lift your feet off the ground and try to move them to the side so I get them unlocked. And then I was really low hipped and it headed the wrong way. And I mean, when I made that mistake, I said, that's 5/10. You're gonna have to hustle from here to the bottom, because I was up by 7/10 on him, and I had that little thing at the start, like you said, broke a gate off, and it got my way a little bit. So there I said, oh, that was nothing. That was 5/100ths or a tenth or something. And then I made that big mistake. Okay, that's a half second in my mind. I'm thinking, okay, now you got to hustle. You never know. And made one more little mistake about 5 gates from the bottom, and that's probably what cost me the medal. But I'd go back and ski the same way. Otherwise, I probably would have made 4 more mistakes besides those that I ended up with.
And I think you'd said before, hey, better to finish second to your own brother than someone from another country, right? Like,
oh yeah, I mean, for sure. And when I got to the bottom, I mean, if anybody ever watches a run, I come through the finish, I kind of turn around and do a snowplow, kind of going backward, bending over forward, and I can't repeat what I was saying to myself. But then, yeah, looked over and saw the 2 on the board. Okay, you're second, and fairly close to him, only 2/10 back. And so I felt the chance of anybody else get by was pretty slim. And knowing watching what happened the first round of so many guys going out, I was just lucky to be standing down there with a medal. Because where I made the mistake that I did, I mean, if I would have been, just even 3 feet lower than I was when I got recovered, I would have been below the next gate and would have basically had no chance of winning the medal. So with the way things went, I was really stoked to still have the silver.
I'll ask you both this question, but Steve, I'll start with you. Like, you're on that medal stand with your twin brother, your best friend, and you guys are wearing gold and silver, and you're here in the Star Spangled Banner. How well do you recall that moment, and what was that like?
Well, I'm sure it's a little different than Phil's because I got to listen to the U.S. national anthem, but only in second place. I was still like, oh yeah, one spot. Once again, little mistakes or whatever that cost you that opportunity. But it was a great moment that it was, like Phil said, it was an American on the top deal and an American national anthem instead of maybe the German or the Swedish or the French or somebody else's national anthem. Like, Phil went through that in Lake Placid. He'll tell you it wasn't awe-inspiring listening to the Swedish national anthem when he was standing on second place. So it was definitely a good moment. Dad, at the end of we were going down from the bottom of the course to our ski room after the race, and we happened to see Dad walking down, and we stopped, and he told me, Phil, he goes, half that medal is your brother's, and I'm still waiting for him to get the hacksaw out and cut it in half.
And maybe we'll glue the silver and gold together type of thing.
Exactly.
Well, Phil, again, that same question for you. What was that like for you, being on that medal stand with your brother, your best friend?
First off, it's kind of changed the way I looked at my whole career. Prior to that, when I won a race, it was, I did this, I accomplished this, that, and what have you. And when I went there, a lot of people asked me what's it like to win a gold medal. And for me, it was anticlimactic. When I won, you go there to win. You don't go there to lose. And so when you win, it's kind of like, okay, well, these are the same guys you compete with day in, day out, year in, year out. And so when I won, I was in the finish area itself. It wasn't such a big deal. So kind of what you wanted to do, what you expected to do. And then when I went to the award ceremony, a lot of things changed. One, I was told by Donna Deverona that my wife had given birth to our first son earlier that day. That put me in tears. Sorry.
Somebody tell a joke.
Yeah, exactly. But and then on the, you go out there, you think, oh, this is going to be your moment to shine. I accomplished this, I did this. It's all about me, and it was completely the opposite. When they start to play your national anthem, you realize that's not yours, that's America's. When your flag's going to the highest stanchion, that's America's flag, it's not just yours. Everybody, I don't know, the thoughts that go through your mind, everybody that ever wish you luck, family, friends, coaches, servicemen, they're all on that podium with you. And you realize that moment would have never been possible without the support of this huge country. And it becomes America's moment, not yours. But it was great to share it with Steve and with the country. And it's like yesterday. A lot of fun.
It's amazing how vivid that memory is for you, just like listening to your emotion as you say it. And you mentioned the birth of your son. I read that in the Seattle Times article from a few years ago, and that was going to be my next question. I mean, this got to be the best day of your whole life, right? I mean, you win a gold medal and find out that your firstborn son was born.
Yeah, it ranks right up there. The crazy thing is, it's the only race that I know the date of. and it has nothing to do with a gold medal. He'll be 38 this year.
Wow.
And it's not too far off, but that's more than half a lifetime ago, and it's a special day. Obviously, there's a lot of special days in your throughout your life, and that ranks as one of them.
Yeah, no doubt. And Phil, I'll stay with you here. In the aftermath of Sarajevo, and not just in like the preceding year, but all these decades, what is that your legacy in U.S. skiing? What is it meant to you? Obviously, being one of the most decorated of all time.
Well, I mean, it's an honor to be, I think, recognized for your accomplishments in your sport and so forth. But I really don't give it much thought. Skiing was just something I did. It never defined me. It never, was that important, I guess, in a lot of respects. It was something I loved to do. I had a lot of opportunities, given to me or in front of me that I took advantage of, and great things happened. And you always look back on your career, and you're fond. You can never duplicate that again. That's something that'll just kind of be there forever. But I didn't solve cancer. I didn't do anything for mankind. He went around a red and a blue plastic pole, and became famous for it. And that's not something to really rest your hat on, I guess. You take it for what it is and you move on. And it's a chapter of my life that I'll always remember and I'll always cherish, but it's not who I am per se as an individual. I'd love to be better known as a great father and a great husband and a great person versus a great skier.
Yeah, that's great perspective, no doubt. Steve, what about you? That kind of legacy that you guys have been able to carry with U.S. skiing to this day?
Very, very similar to Phil there with that. I was fortunate that I didn't have to put up with much as to the press over the years, because he was just that little bit ahead of me, and so I was able to live a little more normal life while we were doing it. His was a lot more hectic, I think, and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I'll never, say that, skiing wasn't good to me or whatnot. I mean, it was a great part of my life, and still enjoy doing it to this day. Phil and I, would do what's called the Mahre training centers, which we, work with anybody and everybody. The guy that's never skied a day in his life to the one that's been skiing for 40 years and wants to do it 40 more or something. So we just make it easier on themselves and whatnot. And we've been doing that for 38 years this year, first in Keystone, Colorado for 20 years, and now the last 18 in Deer Valley, Utah. I mean, it's something that we still do. So we spend quite a bit of time in the hill doing that. Probably do spend more time skiing doing that than we do just skiing for ourselves for fun or whatnot. But it gave us the opportunity to live a life where I've never worked a day in my life other than go out on the ski hill. And if that's work, so be it. But it really isn't work.
Yeah, no doubt. When you guys came home to Yakima, Steve, was there a celebration for you guys, a parade, anything like that? What was it like?
They did a couple of those over the year. The first time would have been 1982 when I won the World Championship gold medal in Slavia, Austria, and Phil won his second overall World Cup that year. And definitely in '84 when we came back from the Olympics and whatnot, they did a celebration for our family and us as well. So, but I look at it as a celebration for Yakima as opposed to just Phil and myself. It was just like the other day we were watching, we were in Montana, my wife and I, but we watched the LA Rams play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Cooper Kupp, it was from Yakima, a couple big plays to basically help LA beat Tampa and Brady or whatever, so there's been a lot of good ones, Dan Dornick, and I mean, you go back in boxing, whatnot. There's been some definitely some other really good athletes from the Yakima Valley, and we were just fortunate to be two of those other athletes.
Yeah, Phil, kind of same for you. What was that like when you came home, and I guess the kind of adulation for you guys coming home with that hardware from Sarajevo?
Well, I mean, it's a special moment. Once again, it's something that you'll you'll always remember, you'll always cherish it. But life moves on, and there's more to life than that. But Yakima Valley has been home for us, and will always be home for us. Our family was born in this area and all raised here. We're all still in Washington State. It's just a great place to be.
And is this correct, Phil? No American man has won a slalom medal since '84. Is that true still?
That is true.
So when you guys watch ski competitions on television, and I don't, maybe you'll be watching in Beijing when it starts, like, is that a hope for you guys to get an American back on that podium someday?
Oh, we'd love to have that happen. Like you said, I mean, before us, I mean, there had been 2 medals won by Americans. That was Billy Kidd and Jimmy Huga, who won medals in, I think it was '64 in slalom, and they were silver and bronze medalists. And then 20 years later, Phil and I won our 2 medals, gold and silver. And then since then, no other American male has won a medal in slalom. And yeah, I mean, I think Phil has said, I'd like to put out like a $200,000 or whatever award to some American guy that would go win a gold medal in slalom again for our country, just to give him some incentive besides just the gold medal or whatever,
Yeah, Phil, maybe we can start like a GoFundMe or something, right? Well, I'll toss in a few bucks.
Yeah, it's crazy. To think that it's been 38 years now, and our chances don't look good this year. I think we only have one person possibly entered in the slalom. Luke Winters, he's from Portland, Oregon, a young kid, 23 or 4. He showed some speed, but it's been very, very inconsistent. And unfortunately, we just don't have anything in the pipeline right now. And, it just boggles my mind that in 38 years, we haven't been able to produce a slalom skier that could win a medal. I mean, it's just unfathomable.
Is it, what are your, I don't know, what do you even say about that? Why do you think that is?
If I knew the answer, we'd have a lot of gold medalists. I don't. I think that the one thing is there's a lot of athletes. For instance, Ted Ligety, who became one of the greatest giant slalom skiers in the history of the sport. He made the U.S. ski team as a slalom skier. Steve Nyman made the U.S. ski team as a slalom skier. Bodie Miller made the U.S. ski team as a slalom skier. I mean, all these guys were tech skiers. And then they all migrated into giant slalom or downhill and speed. And I don't know if that was on their wish list or if that was the way the coaches want to direct them. But for some reason, we just don't. Everybody starts out as a tech skier. They start out as a slalom or giant slalom skier. You don't become a downhiller until later in your career, because you don't run downhill when you're a kid. When you're young, you ski slalom and giant slalom. And I think that unfortunately the U.S. ski team, I think, says, well, we need to be all around skiers if we're going to win the World Cup. And kids are just kind of put into the pipeline that you're going to be a speed skier, not a tech skier. And I think the young kids have to be strong enough to say, I want to be a slalom skier, or I want to be a slalom and giant slalom skier, or a tech skier, and not be an all-arounder or something. I don't know what it is, but we obviously aren't doing something right, because we've been floundering now for 38 years and haven't produced anybody.
Right. Well, guys, I feel like I've taken up enough of your time here already. This is, like I said, a real treat for me, and I appreciate you guys making the time to do this over Zoom with us today.
Our pleasure.
Thanks. It's great having you.
All right. Take care, guys. Thank you so much.